Hey guys, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, guess what? It's pretty much go time out here in the spring garden. I guess we should say maybe the very early spring or late winter garden, but I have a lot I need to get done today and henceforth. It's really the beginning of the season here for me where there's something to do pretty much every day. So what I've already done so far is prepare the raised beds for planting out the ranunculus. They're pre-sprouting inside and they're going to be going out into the garden in just a few days. So I'll show you what they look like currently. I also need to soak and pre-sprout my anemone corms because they just arrived in the mail today. I would have much rather have done the ranunculus and the anemones on the same day. I always start things on March 1st around here, but you know, sometimes things just happen. So we're going to do that today. I have some ranunculus that I got from a friend that she grew from seed that I'm going to be planting. I also need to plant out my foxglove because it's been hardening off for a few weeks. And yeah, guys, I'm sure there's other things I need to get around to today, but that's what I absolutely must get done. So why don't we get started with the anemones because they need to soak for 4 hours before we can start the pre-sprouting process. And the soaking and pre-sprouting process for anemones and ranunculus is basically exactly the same. The main difference is that the corms look different, but basically we're just going to soak them in room temperature water for 4 hours, and we're going to either dump the water every hour in order to keep it fresh and clean, or we're going to aerate and keep the water moving somehow. Some people like to use a fish pump just to keep the water moving. Some people like to do a steady stream of water running into the bucket. So they've been in this water for 1 hour, so now it's time to dump it, refresh it, and then we can head back into the garden until 4 hours have passed, and then we'll move on to planting them into moist potting soil to get those roots going. Now it looks like I also need to go ahead and dump the truck at some point, but let me show you these beautiful ranunculus. I had this nice blue pot in our garage that I haven't used in years, and I thought I would just plant the ranunculus in there. And then also I've been forcing some pussy willow branches and some quince that's just about to open up. And since we're actually going to be in the 70s for the next few days, I think I can actually just stick all the branches in this pot and they'll bloom out here for me since they're so close to opening up. I think it will be okay. So here's the ranunculus I have to work with. And can you see there in the background, I laid cardboard down between all the raised beds because I have some mulch being delivered on Tuesday that I'm going to spread over top there. But these are going to be so beautiful. A beautiful white pink pickety there, almost a green. So I'll be interested to see if these ranunculus open kind of a white green. And I just love green flowers. So are you guys super excited for Gardener's World to start back up on television? I think it either started back up, did it start back up yesterday or does it start tomorrow? I can't remember if it's Friday or Sunday. I have to check, but I have to tell you, I've definitely been missing having Monty to watch every week, and especially Carol Klein, because I just love Carol Klein. She's just so excited about gardening and she just makes everything more fun and interesting when she talks. I've really been enjoying her show as well. And it was so interesting too to see what her personal garden looks like. It's really kind of a highly terraced garden. It's not something that you see around here, at least in South Central Pennsylvania. Everything here is really, really flat. You know, I remember growing up, there used to be, what's it called? This Old House that was on. It was kind of like a gardening show. Then I think P. Allen Smith had a television show for a while. But now I'm actually not sure if there's any American gardening television shows. Are there? I'm going to feel really silly if there's one that's super obvious and I just don't know about it. But I always find myself being really attracted to UK gardeners for some reason. So do you guys feel like you prefer ranunculus or you prefer anemones? I've always preferred ranunculus and I'm not really sure why. You know, there's just so many rows and rows of petals to enjoy. I guess that's why I like them better. But of course those beautiful black eyes on the anemones are gorgeous too. I actually did not intend to grow anemones this year. I don't grow them every year. I just noticed that ranunculus sell a lot better at the stand, to be honest with you, and that's why I've just started to grow more ranunculus and less anemones. But I was asked to write an article on anemones this year, and basically that's what you're seeing me do here today, is kind of preparation for that article. But it'll be fun to grow them again, and these varieties that I'm growing are not good for cutting, just so you know. So all the instructions that I'm giving would work for any anemone, but these ones are actually shorter varieties, and they're gonna go in my borders, not in a raised bed. And I'm hoping that will be helpful too, because you know, when you do the ranunculus in a raised bed and you do the hoops and the row cover, I think sometimes that's hard to translate to the garden. But the nice thing is with anemones, since the basal foliage grows so low to the ground, that you can actually put the frost cloth right on top of that basal foliage if you need to. I even have some that just come back every year in the driveway garden. I can actually show you that. I know a lot of people here in 6B prefer to do a fall planting of anemone. They feel that's better. All right, guys, so how's it looking to you? I think we can add the branches now. So let's see if we think this is a good idea or not. So classic willow for you. It's put on roots in just a few weeks in water. And willow has to win the award for easiest plant to propagate ever, because you can just push bare sticks into the ground and I bet you 90 to 95% of them will root. That's how all of these trees, I bet, were started on the property. Same with forsythia too. I mean, you can basically propagate forsythia by layering, which is how I've done ours here, because I started out with just, I think there was 3 forsythia shrubs here, and you'll see come late March that the whole fence is lined with them now. But you can just do that by layering or by taking hardwood cuttings. They are just really, really forgiving. You know what I think this needs is some moss, and I have some over here. There we go. Well, here it is all done. Like I say, I'm definitely no pro when it comes to container gardening, but it is just nice to have a pop of green and a little bit of color out here and some blooms to enjoy. And won't this be just so beautiful once the ranunculus open fully? And hopefully that quince will continue to open out here for me. I have tried this process before where you kind of force the branches mainly inside and then bring them out here at the end. And as long as it stays pretty warm, which it will the next 2 days, they do seem to open outside. But I'll try to update y'all with a picture. Well, now that that's done, let me grab my gloves and we'll go ahead and plant that flat of foxglove. And by the time we're done with that, it'll probably be time to switch out the anemone water again. So this area doesn't look like much now, but a few years ago, I grew a bunch of foxglove right here with some larkspur behind the foxglove. I'll overlay some video for you. And I just absolutely loved how that looked. So I already have some fall planted foxy foxglove in the driveway garden. So we can also do a comparison between spring planted foxy foxglove and fall planted foxy foxglove, because I do see a really big difference. But let's get to planting. So I've got them all planted here. In front of them is a hedge of catmint, and then kind of interspersed in between them are some 1-year-old peonies. So I think this will be really beautiful, and I can't wait to have that drift of foxglove here again. Now, I've found foxglove to be incredibly hardy here in zone 6B. It's listed in cool flowers as hardy down to 5. I would say this is my 5th year growing foxy foxglove as a cool flower, both in the fall and in the spring. I see a significant benefit in planting it in the fall, but the main benefit comes by leaving this annual foxglove in for a 2nd year. And I'll link the video where I actually showed a comparison below. But if you let your Foxy Foxglove bloom this year, don't rip it out like I did initially. Leave it in and get that second flush come the second year. Huge, huge, tall bloom spikes. Also, the circumference of the stem is ginormous. Let's take a look at some fall sown Foxy Foxglove though, because there really is a huge difference. And also, you can see that the leaves don't look good, but they're fine. So this might look rough, but it's very much alive and very much so big, and it's gonna be so vigorous come late spring. And you can see it's already started to push out some new foliage there from the base. And don't worry about all this brown foliage. I just leave it until it really starts to get growing again. But I hope you can see there that even though maybe to some people's eyes this might look a little rough, to me this actually looks really great. And I know that this is gonna put on a much better and more impressive flower stalk for me than the ones that we just planted. So guys, I'll just go ahead and water this in, and then I'll catch you in a few more hours after the anemones have soaked for 4 hours. So it's been about 4 hours, so I'm ready to take my anemones out, and I'll show you the difference between a soaked corm and one that wasn't soaked. And definitely the hardest part for me when I first started planting these was knowing what's up and down, but it's pointy side down and kind of rounded top up. And if you're ever not sure with any bulb or corm, just plant it on its side and it will right itself. But basically I have a tray here with about 1 inch to 2 inches of pre-moistened potting soil. And I read an article once by Hank Onnings from Onnings America that he said the soil should be just moist. And I thought that was the best way that I could think of too to describe how I want the moisture level. So I want to pick up the soil. I want it to be definitely moist to the touch, but I don't want to wring it out and have sopping water anywhere. So now we just stick these right into the moist soil just like we did the ranunculus. All right, now that I have this tray full, I'll just cover them with some more moist potting soil, just to basically cover them up. It doesn't have to be a lot. Now that the corms are covered, I'll place this tray in an area that's between 50 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit, so pretty cool, and also, most importantly, dark. And I found that our unheated basement works really great for this. That's where I do my ranunculus and my anemones. That's where I store things like my dahlia tubers. So let's go down there and put this tray down there. It'll stay down there for at least 14 days. But the thing with anemones different than ranunculus is I find them to take closer to 3 weeks to really start developing that root system. Not that you couldn't pull them out after 14 days and plant them in the ground, but just know that if 14 days have passed and you're not seeing a lot of root development, I think it was Dave Dowling that I heard say once that he actually recommends 2 to 3 weeks at 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. And certainly he knows a lot more than I do. And I always follow kind of his instruction and Hank Onnings on things like ranunculus and anemones. So let's take these down to the basement and I'll show you how the ranunculus are looking on day 11. So I turned on a light down here so we can see, but it's usually just totally dark down here unless I'm doing the laundry. So here's the anemones we just did, and here are our ranunculus at 11 days. I only had to moisten the soil just a little touch more just a few days ago. I felt it was drying out too much, but let me pull one out for you. And really, these could be planted out today if I wanted to. This is really exactly what I want them to look like. Take a look at this one. So you can see these guys can go out into the garden right now if you wanted to. You don't need to have them inside any longer than this. But that's pretty much all there is for this step. The next step will just be to plant them out into the garden. Well, I think that brings me to the end of the video today. This week I'll be getting around to planting out those ranunculus into the raised bed right there that I've already prepped with multiple layers of compost. I have the hoops ready, the row cover ready. Anytime the temperatures threaten to dip below freezing, whether that be night or daytime temperatures, always hoop and row cover. And then if it's above freezing, always the cover is completely off. That's the way I found works best for me here. And don't forget, there's still plenty of time to be entered into the lily bulb giveaway courtesy of Longfield Gardens. Just pop onto my last video where I installed Hummingbird Way and leave any comment to be entered in the drawing for 15 Casablanca lily bulbs, and I'll announce that winner on Thursday in a video I'm going to do all about lilies. And that's a video I've really been wanting to make because any kind of bulb is an investment, and especially if you're growing lilies for cut flowers, there's some that I would really recommend, and then there's some that I've tried and thought this is really a garden lily. And I'm really hoping this video will be helpful and hopefully save some people some money and some heartache, especially if you're growing lilies for cutting. Well guys, have a great one. I'll see you next time. Bye.